Hey everybody, how's it going? In today's video, I want to have a look at the broad crypto space in general. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to have a look at a analytic or a chart called total. And total's brilliant because, well, there's three totals. There's total 1, total 2, and total 3. Those are the three that I'll mainly be using anyway, or that I do mainly use anyway. And they're brilliant because they just give broad indications on how the crypto space is doing, and each one does an individual has a unique twist. So total 1, or just total, is the top 125 crypto coins. Now I've removed USDT and USDC, so if you want, it's the top 123 coins, crypto coins, with the two biggest stable coins removed, because between them USDT and USDC have about $100 billion locked up in value, and then I think the next biggest stable coin below that is DAI, which is like 5 billion or something like that. It isn't much, or maybe 50 billion. I think it's 5 billion though. So it's like, it's not worth going through each stable coin and subtracting them one by one. You can just take the two biggest out and it'll give you a very accurate overview. But anyway, total 1 shows top 125 cryptos, including Bitcoin and Ethereum. Total 2 shows the top 125 cryptos except Bitcoin. And total 3 shows the top 125 cryptos without Bitcoin or Ethereum. So total 3 and total 1 are the ones that I find the most useful. They're all very useful, to be honest with you, but total and total 3 are good to compare to each other because it's a good way of showing how the space has held up with Bitcoin and Ethereum and how they haven't held up with Bitcoin or Ethereum. And even just total 2 is very useful. We'll go through both, but I think it's just a good metric to have a look at. So I'm also going to turn on my moving averages here. You can see my yellow line is the 50-day moving average, and my blue is the weekly average. So I'm actually on the daily right now. So yeah. So as we can see, total in general with Bitcoin and Ethereum, excluding top 2 stable coins, has stayed above the 50-day moving average, which is quite bullish. And we can see since the beginning of the year, it's been a strong upward movement. So this is basically the crypto space in general, because everything below 125, the 125th crypto coin is going to be, a market cap of, 5 million or something like that, 2 million, which I know sounds like a lot, but it really isn't compared to Bitcoin's 530 whatever billion market cap. As we see, pretty strong this year. We dipped below it twice, and the most recently we spent a good bit of time below it, and I think this shows weakness in general. I think, it's quite often that we see Bitcoin struggle during summer seasons, especially when it's not the bull run. And, we said at the beginning of this year, first video, I said we're going to spend half this year getting wrecked with Bitcoin, half this year, not getting wrecked. Bulls will get wrecked, bears will get wrecked, everyone will get wrecked. It'll be half and half. I think most people are saying this, and I think most people know this, but I think it's good to just keep repeating ourselves, especially for newer viewers or people who just want a bit of TA or just want to know how the crypto space is holding. In general, the expectation is that the bulls will get wrecked and the bears will get wrecked. And for the bulls to get wrecked, the price has to go down. There has to be lower highs. And for the bears to get wrecked, the price has to go up. There has to be higher highs. And since the beginning of this year, we've had 6 full months. We're close to, well, we're not close to closing on our 7th, but we've had 6 full months. And we can see that so far this year, the general crypto space market has gone up. It's done very well. It's up 53% in general. So if you're putting money into any of these sort of cryptos, even at this sort of time, you'd be doing pretty good. Now, I know Bitcoin is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, Bitcoin and Ethereum, because they've both been going up relatively strongly. I know a lot of alts haven't, and we'll take a look at that soon with total 2 and total 3. But in general, the crypto space has been doing well this year. So it only makes sense that over these next few months, we expect a bit of pain. Now, I was saying in my last video, my last Bitcoin video, that I think we were looking at this sort of 37k line for Bitcoin, which is where a lot of its resistance and support has come from at the beginning and end of bull and bear runs, this last cycle anyway. And I think we might stretch up to that 37 and then bounce back off it, and then we'll have our few months of pain that Bitcoin usually tends to have during these years. And historically, that's what's happened. It's the same with Ethereum. It's usually bulls and bears get wrecked. Now, it doesn't have to be 6 months wrecked for each. It could be 8 months are good for the bulls, and then from August, September onwards, the bears get a few victories. Like I said, I don't think we'll put in any new lows this cycle for Bitcoin, but anyway, that's a whole other topic. So as we can see, total one looking quite strong. Ethereum and Bitcoin doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, though. So it'll be interesting to see how they change as we change chart. And actually, I think, yeah, I have total 3 here, but I think I'll do total 2 first. So we'll have total 2 minus USDT minus USDC. We'll put this on. Now we'll make it a bit clearer. We'll change the color. I always prefer to have it a very standout color, like purple. We can see that basically since the peak of 2021, late 2021, there's a gap here, and I don't want to zoom in because I will in a minute, but we can see that there's roughly a 20% disparity between these two, total and total 2. And total 2, I'll just remind you, is just without Bitcoin. So with Bitcoin gone out of the equation, we can see that, of course it changes as we zoom in. We can see that from price right now to price right now for both total 1 and total 2, there's actually a 30% discrepancy. So removing Bitcoin from the equation, which really tells you so much about what you need to know, and what I've been driving home since day one, and what I've been believing for basically all this cycle, haven't touched alts. Just put your money in Bitcoin. As soon as the peaks are in, as soon as the highs are in, as soon as there's like an obvious dip, there's no longer, we're away from our peak, put your money in Bitcoin or USDT, because Bitcoin is going to outperform everything in these sort of generally, of course. I know there's always alts that will put in a 10x during a week or whatever, and technically that proves me wrong. I don't care about them. They don't really matter. That's pure chance. That's gambling. That's just hoping that your meme coin gets tweeted about by Elon Musk or whatever. I'm only really worried about general things that can actually be planned for. And this is something that can be planned for because it's played out every single time like this. Bitcoin always holds up much better than everything else. A 30% discrepancy, and that's with Ethereum as well. Ethereum has held decently this cycle, and this year anyway. I mean, it hasn't performed as well as Bitcoin, but it's still done well. And when you take Ethereum out of this, we'll have a look soon, you can see it's very poor. I mean, obviously if we go back to the beginning here, it doesn't have much data, only since 2021. We can see that obviously the altcoin, it won't let me, yeah, here we go. So I'll just show you. We can see that altcoins obviously made way bigger moves compared to Bitcoin from, sort of just as the bull market was really taking off. When it went parabolic, altcoins obviously shot up, and they always do. It's all about timing, not the market, not when you sell, but usually when you transition from BTC to alts, or BTC to ETH, and then ETH to alts. As long as you're DCAing and you know roughly what to look out for and what signs there are, the market often is cyclical. It often follows the same sort of pattern. And once you know what you're doing, you can look out for these things. So obviously altcoins during bull markets, they obviously outperform most assets, and often the lower cap, the more they'll outperform, but there's also just a risk that they won't take off and they just, won't happen. Like Hydra, that's a coin I want to come back to. That's a very low cap coin, and that's one that I would be interested in because I've spent a lot of time looking at it and stuff. There's a chance that Hydra will never gain any momentum, and it'll just fade into nothing. That's something that I've accepted. And yeah, I'm waiting for a good time to buy, and I'm starting to think now, well, I think I can buy, but I still think there's more pain for the alts. I mean, with ETH here, even with ETH in this, it's still just, it speaks for itself. It literally speaks for itself. I mean, with Bitcoin gone, there was a huge price discrepancy here. Bitcoin has been basically the backbone of, the crypto space recently. I mean, this year, like I said, 30%, wasn't it? I'll just treble check this. Okay, sorry, from the beginning of this year, it's been 20%. So if you were to put your money into Bitcoin at the beginning of this year, instead of anything else, or into any alts in general, say you spread them out over 5 alts or whatever, you would be much better off of just putting them in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is considered the safer bet because it's the biggest market cap. It's been around the longest. It's the tried and true. The SEC aren't going after it. And yeah, you could always argue stable coins, but that's why I've taken them out of this chart. It's to show us sort of the alts. And also, technically, stable coins aren't really safe at the moment. Not in America, anyway. I know the EU is probably going to go after them because, they're challenging their, CBDCs and all this. So nothing's really safe. Everything's in the crosshair except for Bitcoin, it seems, at the moment. And its price has shown that. It's outperformed. It's outperformed the general crypto market space. Now, that was total 2 with Ethereum. Let's take a look at total 3. Now, total 3 minus USDT minus USDC. Let's load it up. I'll change the color again to purple, just because I always think that orange looks like BTC, and of course there is no BTC in this, so I don't want anybody confused. Beginning of this year, that's just about spot on. I mean, if you thought total 2 was bad, total 3 is going to be pretty rough, really. I mean, I'm scared to even measure this just because of how poor it is. A 40%, basically double. It just goes to show how the safer havens during this time will generally just outperform the whole space. And like I said, I don't want to keep saying this, but there'll always be people that say, well, Pepe Coin just did a 3x. Yeah, that's fine. Good for Pepe Coin. But it's unless you're day trading, that's of no use to me. Because in a year's time from now, to be honest, with the way the crypto space works and how Doge, Pepe Coin might actually still be a thing. And you know what? You might even make some money off it long term. I don't know. It's not something that I've given any sort of... haven't looked into it properly because there's no actual... It's a gamble. It's a gamble at the moment. Things like that, they're a complete gamble. Whereas these things are almost... they're not written in stone, but they often always play out in a similar way. And again, we don't have much data with these two, only since sort of the bull run in 2021. But you can see, of course, altcoins way outperform without ETH. So they obviously have higher upside potential, which is to be expected, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, it's pretty expected. But then they come crashing down during these bear market times. Now, I mean, if you were to buy your coin at peak here, or to buy your set of coins, whatever, AVAX, ADA, Sol, Matic, whatever, a few of the big names, now they've probably held up slightly better than this shows. But you would still be down, let's say, be generous, but you did it very poorly, sort of bought around here. You're now down 70%. Now, if you were to have bought Bitcoin early on here. I know it doesn't show, but Bitcoin would have been, during this 2020 sort of time, you'd be much better off holding Bitcoin, and then sort of transitioned into alts as it turned into 2021 or towards the end of 2022. You'd hit this parabolic rally. Maybe you then sold back to BTC or to ETH, so you didn't lose, all of your gains over these few months. You hold BTC, you might swap out again. You get big gains, swap into BTC. You don't fall as much. You fall 50% instead of 40%. Maybe you're better off just holding alts. But no, definitely not. That was a joke. I hope people know that was a joke. But it's all about sort of when to switch out between the two. You want to switch into alts to catch these big highs. If you're going to really, really sort of time things and work hard on it. If you want to just hold a few alts and a bit of Bitcoin and just wait for it to go up in a year or two, power to you. I was chatting to someone in the comments, Patrick, he holds LTC, and his plan is to just hold. I think he didn't have a sort of sell target. He's just waiting for when the project takes off, like it always does in bull runs, and I sort of agree with him. I think it will. I think he's pretty smart decision, to be honest. If you're willing to wait, you can often make good money, especially in the crypto space, where everything is sort of the extreme of what you might find in the usual financial market. So yeah, again, total 3 here. No ETH, no BTC. Outperformed total 1 during the good times, and then during the poor times, like since basically 2022, it's underperformed. You'd be better off holding Bitcoin, basically. And actually, I think if I let me think here. If I go, I'll change this to BTC, Bitcoin on the US dollar, and then here's our Fibonacci. I'll get rid of this. We can see that total 3 has still performed quite poorly compared to just Bitcoin itself. You see, if you were to generally just hold these alts with Bitcoin, there's about a 20%, 25% discrepancy, and that's from the all-time high. So if you were to hold these alts on the way down, you'd be in a lot more pain, whereas Bitcoin has sort of held up. Now you could say that, like, if you zoom into this time, that there's not actually much of a big difference. We can see here when it was still sort of 2021, end of the year, alts were still putting in higher wicks that Bitcoin wasn't. Even on the way down, it's a much higher line up here, and then compared to Bitcoin, sort of, harsh but steady bleed. But it all just depends where you look at it. Like if you roll the chart out and just zoom out and look at it like most people would from peak, alts are doing terribly. On the way down, yeah, some of them wicked up. They would have had huge pumps. 2022, lots of hype still with Ethereum and a lot of new coins announced. And even though, we were technically going into a bear market, there was still, you still had all these hype boys that were holding bags, hoping for something to happen so they can sell out. So it's a different time, whereas now there's no new money in at the moment. It's, everybody's just sort of begrudgingly holding their crypto, waiting for the next bull run, which will happen in maybe a year or two. So naturally the alts have faded, because alts are, like, realistically, a lot of their price is driven by hype. A lot of how well alts perform is to do with what's upcoming for them. Like, we still don't have this killer app that people talk about where that makes using cryptocurrency or using Bitcoin or Ethereum easy every day, and it makes something much simpler than a pre-existing solution. Like, we just don't have it. I know that Bitcoin is supposed to be a payment system, that can go without borders. That's good, but it's not easy. You know, like your grandma wouldn't be able to navigate. Well, maybe she would. She might be very. My grandma wouldn't be able to navigate sending someone Bitcoin. You know, she wouldn't know where to buy it from. She wouldn't know how to send it to her own wallet. She wouldn't know how to set up her own wallet. She wouldn't know the risks of keeping it on an exchange, or like it's a daunting, a lot of overheads if you want to even know about Bitcoin. There's a lot to learn, and it's very complicated. We don't have this sort of use case where we can just. It's very simple. It's not complicated. Click a few buttons, solves the problem that was previously very long-winded or whatever. We just don't have it, and I think we're not going to see. We're just going to stay within these sort of cyclical cycles, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum that I think will keep going up. I think we're just going to stay in this sort of pattern where nothing happens until that comes along, and then we'll, you know, see big movements and stuff like that. But that's a whole other field of speculation that just, you know, another video. It's not for me to be guessing on what or when that will be. Anyway, I just wanted to point out that basically, again, like I've been saying in every single video, Bitcoin has been your safe bet. This is Bitcoin chart now, and as you can see, the purple has not done well, and the purple is the top 125 alts, excluding Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDT, USDC. And it is underperformed miserably. You know, like from the beginning of the year, from the beginning of 2022 roughly, or from the peak roughly, there's an 88% difference between the two currently at price. So if you were to hold at peak, you would be struggling. You know, again, I know I've already done it, but just to check, beginning of this year, 78% difference. Like, just, it's always the same thing with these sort of, with how these work. Okay, I've been in crypto a good bit of time. Not a good bit of time, but I've seen a cycle play out. I didn't join in 2021 when I had a lot of hype. I was very interested during like 2017, 2018 time, and I got to see the sort of build up to the bull market, and I got to see it come back down. I remember a few friends that were interested in it with me that sort of learnt about it during the bull run and put money in and sort of held and thought, oh, it's going to go to the moon. They were amazed when, like, you know, AVAX, which was trading at 70 USD at its peak, was then suddenly at 20 quid, and they were like, how is it possible? How can an asset drop this much? And I was saying, well, really, it hasn't dropped that much. It just spiked up. Like, you know, 2 years before, AVAX was cheaper than that. It was like a tenner. I remember watching a video on Coinbureau, where they were making a video on AVAX. Sorry, AVAX isn't that old. I'm probably thinking of Solana or something. But anyway, I remember watching a video on AVAX, you know, during the lead up to the bull run. And, you know, they don't make price predictions, but like, I can remember it being something like 15 or 12 USD, I think, and thinking, damn, we could see a 2x here, you know? And it did like a 7x or an 8x or a 10x, whatever. For people that are new, basically what I'm trying to say is people get sucked in, they get introduced to crypto because they see all these huge gains that people make from alts during the bull run. They buy these alts and then they sit on them, most people, because they don't know what to do. It's very easy in your brain to go, okay, I'll just buy a bit of Bitcoin, or I'll just buy a bit of Ethereum, or a bit of ADA, or a bit of Matic. I'll just leave it for a while, and, you know, when I come back to it, it'll be in the profit, so I'll just sell it then. When people buy at the peaks of 2021, like when people were sucked in, not many people saw profit. So they either had the balls to sell at a loss and just call it quits and, like, you know, leave the crypto space out of rage, or they just bought and sold all the way down here and lost even more money as they went down. And then it leaves people dead bitter, and then they see the market jump up and they jump back in again, and maybe they do see green, but when people see that green, I'm a victim of it myself, it's very easy to let it keep going green, if you get me. They want to see they've heard these stories of 10x, 20x, and, you know, when you're up 20, 30%, that's very good. But when you've lost, 4/5 of your money on the way down, and now you're only up 20%, you want to see that 10x so that you can leave the crypto space having broken even. You know what I mean? And people just can't do that. They buy back in, they see it wick up, they don't have the balls to sell or just take profits. It starts going back down again, people panic, they sell, and then they see price goes up again, they buy in. Same cycle over and over. And then when you get to here, it's just people losing money all the way down, all the way down. And most of that losing money comes from altcoins. These drops were, far more exaggerated in the altcoin space. Bitcoin, I know like it's laughable to say that it held well compared to something like a bond, a treasury bond or something like that. But, from its peak to current, you're down 55%. Not many other altcoins can brag that. I know we had a look at few. I know BNB. That did terribly actually. But I know a few other altcoins held up decently, but none of them were able to compete. Well, Ethereum could compete. It was down 61% compared to Bitcoin's 55%. None of the other altcoins could compete with Bitcoin's resilience during the bear market. It didn't crumble like everything else. Well, it did crumble, but just not as greatly. It held its position, and it followed the cycle that it usually often does. And so did the alts. It's the same story every single time. Like, this is my first time sort of completing a cycle. I'd say that, I've been in the crypto space, give or take 4 or 5 years, I've been in it a while. And while I haven't been actively trading and holding the assets that whole time, I've been interested and I've been following the markets. It's always the same. It's always alts that do terribly, and there's Bitcoin that does well. And now people are saying Ethereum is, sort of up there with Bitcoin. I would tend to agree, but that's not here nor there. It's a big market coin, one of the biggest we've ever seen. Whether it stays like that, who knows? Again, no crystal ball. All I would say is that Bitcoin has been the safest bet this cycle. Not because it hasn't been targeted by the SEC, not because it's vulnerable to hacks. It's not vulnerable to hacks, not because it's sufficiently decentralized. It's literally like I know I'm repeating myself here, but I really need to get it across that alts are not the way during the bear market. They're just not. Stay away from them. Bitcoin is safe. If you're buying alts, during a bull run, good for you. But just nobody ever went broke taking profits. It's a famous line, It's not very common in the crypto space, but it should be. Not many people go broke taking profits, and I think that's something people should listen to. And now I understand if you don't want to be trading. I know it's a bear market, and I know Bitcoin is currently still sort of below this 37k line, which we were looking at, which will sort of dictate once it's above here, we might see a bull run. But until then, you're probably safe DCAing into Bitcoin. And I mean, like, I remember being here and I was thinking, I don't know, this could just be a bit of a wick up. I think I might wait before buying, because I bought it down here. I bought it on the way up. I'd seen it was going up and I thought, okay, I'll stop buying Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure this is sort of a, this pump isn't going to go anywhere. Or if it does, it'll come back down after a while. I think I'll just wait. And this sort of week sort of reinforced that idea in my head. And of course we had a big pump up, and then sort of started to realize that, hey, maybe we're seeing some sustained long-term price action. And then when I was looking at it properly again, it made a lot of sense. I mean, we saw in previous years that this is what it does. I mean, when we went to 2019 or whenever it was, we saw the same thing roughly. Beginning of the year we climbed, the rest of the year we sort of lulled and did nothing, and even halfway into the next year we were at a similar price action, and I think we'll see a sort of similar thing here. but I think we'll see worse downward action, and I think that's to do with the American Treasury printing $6 trillion or whatever it was. I think there's a lot more liquidity to flush out, and I think we've done a good job of flushing it out here, but I still think there's more pain to go, especially for alts. So again, wrapping up now, stay away from alts. Well, maybe now it's time to start considering them again. To be honest, I would still give it. I can't see, not at least for August, maybe September, we might start seeing this pickup of alts again. But for at least the next month, I can't see alts doing well. I know Litecoin has a few things coming up for it, like the halving. But like I was saying in my Litecoin video, halvings aren't usually the super bullish events that we always think they are in our brains. A lot of people are ready to sell their bags on this news. You know, it's a sell the news event. Because it, like, although it is an instant effect, the effects aren't felt instantly. I know that's a bit confusing. I had to think about that myself for a little bit. But, you know, just because the block reward is halved, it doesn't mean that suddenly Litecoin becomes this way more scarce commodity, or whatever you want to call a crypto asset, way more scarce and valuable, and the price rockets up because there's only so many Litecoin left. There's always only been so many Litecoin left, and the price has gone up, yeah, but the effects take time, you know, before people realize that, you know, the rewards are lower, miners have to adjust, miners sell, a lot of miners can't keep running if they're smaller operations or even bigger ones. It depends how much skin you got in the game, I suppose, of Litecoin. There's a lot of factors, and it often results in downward price action. So yeah, basically, again, like fifth time, stay away from alts. I'm going to wrap up this video. Before I keep ranting, I just want to make sure I've sort of covered everything. But stay away from alts. Bitcoin has been the safe bet. This is the logarithmic scale, sorry. I'll turn this off. Stay away from alts. They're trouble. Bitcoin will always perform better in these downward movements, historically, excluding stable coins, of course. As we also saw in our other video, dominance for Bitcoin has gone up. Whether it stays up or not, we'll see. If it does, it means that, you know, alts are going to suffer, basically, for short term, and then put your money back into alts as the dominance falls, because altcoins will be usually gaining money on Bitcoin, or gaining value on Bitcoin. Anyway, thanks very much. Sorry for this super long-winded sort of ramble. I just wanted to show off these charts a bit, because they're not often looked at, especially by people that wouldn't take a lot of time to discover new charts and sort of look at the crypto space in general. A lot of people just look at their coin and, you know, look at a few charts on a Bitcoin pair, on their USD pair. Maybe look at it on CoinMarketCap and see its CoinMarketCap. But people don't often consider the whole space in general, and that's why I think this video is useful. If you like the video, you know, leave a like, please subscribe. Please leave a comment if you have any requests, or if you don't like something that I'm doing, or if you want a particular altcoin reviewed, please leave me a comment. I'll always get down to you back there. And if you just want to chat or you have a question, please leave a comment. I'll always find my way to you and reply to you. So thanks so much, guys. I'll see you in a bit. And yeah, take care.